Okay, so good afternoon, guys. So today we're going to be looking at responsive design in Flutter, right? Adaptive and responsive design in Flutter. So just to start, right? Of course, one of the primary goal of Flutter is to basically create a framework that allows you to develop applications from a single code base, that will actually just function, look, and feel good on any platform, Android, iOS. You can even run on web, right? So what this means is that application, might appear on screens of different sizes. It could be a wristwatch. It could be a mobile phone. It could be a foldable, phone, right? That has two screens. I believe you've seen that before, right? It could be a high definition TV monitor, right? The input device might even be a physical or virtual keyboard, a mouse, or a touch screen. Like devices vary, right? So two terms, right, that describes these concepts, considering all these devices, is adaptive and what responsive. So ideally, your application should be both. Okay, but what does it actually mean, right? So um, this is just an easy way to explain it, right? Your adaptive, responsive design has to do with fitting the UI into the space, into the what space. And adaptive design is about the UI being usable in that space, right? So a responsive application will adjust the placement of design elements to fit the space that is available, right? But an adaptive application selects the appropriate layout, right? And imputes devices to be usable in that available space, right? For example, let's say in a tablet user interface, right? You can decide to use either a bottom navigation or maybe a side navigation, that is your nav drawer. Okay, so that's just the concept of responsive and adaptive, and we'll see if we can touch both, but maybe yeah. So that's basically just kind of sometimes they are collapsed into one single term, right? Most often, adaptive design is actually even used to refer both adaptive and responsive, but they kind of mean different things, right? They mean different things. So um let's do some. We're going to just do some we're going to just run through some examples, right? And then get to see how it actually, kind of works and all that. Now, first of all, when it comes to achieving, responsiveness, right? When it comes to achieving responsiveness, you need to first of all go over the concepts that is required for developing the responsive layout, right? You need to understand your UI and what is expected of you. So there are several ways you can actually achieve responsiveness in Flutter, and we're going to be looking at them, right? Now, the first one we're going to start with is media query. The media query what class, right? So let's actually do a demo of this. I'm just going to make use of only this class. The main is in here to do most of what we are going to, do. Um, so instead of this scaffold here, sorry, this center widget here. So let me kind of format this way. Okay, good. So instead of this thing, let's have a um so let me create, first of all, get a size. Sorry, just a second. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to be using the media query. This is just one way to achieve responsiveness. So basically, the media query helps you to retrieve the size, right, which involves the width and the height. And it also helps you to retrieve the orientation of any screen, right, whichever screen. So for the size, let's just say um, of types. Let me just do something, screen size, say media query. So media query, and then we say dot of context, right? And then dot size. So this will give us the size. Uh, I can also get the orientation, right? So also from media query, right? Um, media query, not this, dot of context, and then dot orientation, right? So with this, I can now do something here, right? I can do something here. So this is what I'm going to do. I just want us to see, you know, how this is going to be structured. First of all, we have a text that is actually in the center, right? So let's say, let me do some. So I can say something like view, right? Let me, okay. Let me do um, some string stuff, right? So I just want you to be able to see the screen with that we're going to be working with. So let me do, let's say media query with, right? So let's get the width. That should be this. So that will just be my screen size dot width. Now, of course, this, from the size objects that we created, then I'll say to string. So let me do to string as fixed, right? I want to get it to string as fixed. Now, this is just a decimal point string representation. So it will convert this to a double, right? To convert this number to a double before computing the string representation, right? So I'm going to pass in two, right? And then let's have a new line. So methods can be involved in the constant expression. So let's take out this const here, right? Okay. Um, let's say, let me just add another stuff here, right? And then let's see if we can also get the orientation. So media query, supposed to be one word, orientation, right? And then I'll call orientation, right? So let's just run this first, because basically just what I want to show you is, let's see. So let's reduce this. Let's say 18. So I'm going to just rerun this, right? So you can see what this calculates here. So what this has shown us is that the width of this particular screen of mine is 384, right? So it's calculating it as what 384, because, and the orientation there you can see is portrait what orientation. Now I'm going to just remember this is my actual phone. So I'm just going to switch to landscape, right? Let me bring it towards the side, right? So you can see now the width is what 785.42, and the orientation is what landscape. So with this, you can now decide that, okay, for a particular view, right? For a particular view, you should have, what is it called? This particular kind of layout for a portrait view and another kind of layout for a landscape view, right? You can actually get to design such thing and it will come out fine, right? And I'll show us actually how to do that. But this is just to kind of show you, you know, what's okay. Let me even show you something what I was talking about now. But let me use a grid view builder, right? Um, whereby you can show something in a particular portrait mode and show it in a different way in landscape mode. So let's say I have, so instead of this whole center thing, let me just cut that out. I'll just paste it here and comment it out. I may need it again. So now in this body, let's say I want to do a grid view builder, right? Now, so it takes a grid delegate, and the grid delegate, I want to use a silver grid. Actually, it's sliver, not silver. Sliver grid delegate. So let me see, with fixed, with max, with fixed. Yeah, so let's do with fixed cross-axis count. I think that should the first one here. And then this takes in a few things like the cross-axis count, the child aspect ratio, the spacing, and a lot of other things. So let me do a few things. Like, for example, the cross-axis count can be, so the cross-axis count is basically, so I want to put a grid of stuff, right? And you know how grid is basically two, you know, can have a grid of 3, you can have a grid of 4. That's the cross-axis count, right? Now, what I want to do, right? What I want to do is this. Let me bring this down here. Bring this down here. Bring this down here. Okay, so now for the silver, so cross-axis count, I'm just going to get my screen size, which is just the size dot the width. Now I want to do a check. If the width is less than, okay, in my case, it's okay, let me just say if it's less than 600, right? Let the grid count be 2. Else, let the grid count be 4. Okay, so now let's say for a child aspect ratio, I can say 3/2, whereby 3 is the height. You should know aspect ratio now. It's just the ratio of the cross axis to the main. So 3 has to do with the height, 2 has to do with the width, right? So for an item builder, let's just do something, nothing too serious. Let's just look for something simple, like just returning a card, right? Color of this card, let's say colors dot amber. Let's use amber, right? And the child should just be, I think, okay, let's just kind of do that here. Center with the child of text. Now the text should have, let me just say item, and then I'll just take the index, right? Of course, you know it's going to iterate through. So you should have item 1, item 2, item 3, and the likes, right? So let me save this, right? Okay. Let me bring back our, so let me save this and then let's see what we have. So this is what we have. Now, of course, I'm not actually, you know, this is just going to keep building. There's no particular, I didn't stop at any number. So the more I keep scrolling, the more it's going to keep on generating, you know, the cards for me, right? So 0 down, I can still be scrolling. But this is the major thing I want us to see here when it comes to, you know, responsive and adaptive design. Now, when it's on this portrait mode, I'm displaying just 2. right? And this shows that I can see the condition here. If the screen width is less than 600, and we just saw that ours is 384, and 384 is actually less than 600, show what this. But if it is not less than, it should show, the cross-axis count should be 4. So I'm going to switch this to landscape. So let me just shift this and then turn, right? And then you see it comes in what? 4s. You can see. So from a landscape, it now adapts, right? So this is adaptive and responsive what design. Okay. So that's one way, and of course, this is just one way. Having to use media query is one way to achieve, that. And this, of course, this is a responsive grid layout, right? Okay, so another way to achieve responsive design is by using what we call a layout builder, the layout builder class, right? Um, Now, the main difference between media query and layout builder is that media query uses the complete context of the screen rather than just the size of, your particular widget. But layout builder is going to determine the maximum width and height of that particular widget, right? So just because of time, I'm just going to paste this code here that I kind of just got. I don't want to, I'd already written it, and it's going to take a lot of, I don't want us to take too much time, in this. So let me get just a second. I think it should be this one. So let me just paste this here. We're not here to build stuff, it's just to actually learn and know how this thing works. So I'm just going to paste this here. So let me colors dot let me just say blue, right? So colors dot let me use red just so that we can see things different. So let me just save this and then let's see what we have. Right, so look at this, right? So this is layout builder. So what do we have here? First of all, we have 2 rows, right? We have 2 rows and we are using an expanded. But one thing we should look at here is that even in the expanded, we are specifying that we're specifying that this expanded here, the first one, where's my cursor? Okay, it has a flex of 2. Now the second one has a flex of 3, so it should take up more of the space. But we are also using a layout builder, which is basically giving us a center and just a text, right? So you can see using this layout builder, right? What do we have here? We are seeing that the size of this one is 384. So the size actually did not, what's it called? Remember we said media query uses the complete context of the screen. Layout builder determines the maximum width and height of a particular object. Okay, the maximum width and height of a particular object. So the screen, the width of this screen is still 384. It did not actually change, right? In this case, it didn't change. But you can see with layout builder now, the width here is 153, and then the width here is what? 230. That's for this second one. Why? Because now here, we just have a center, we have a text. In this layout builder here, what we have here, we have is returning, now here we are returning the container, right? Both of them, we are returning the container, but because of this flex, now if I change this flex to 2 and save it, right, they will have equal width, right? So it's with respect, the layout builder works with respect to the widget. Media query works with respect to the context of the screen, right? So that's basically just like the difference between layout builder and the media query. There's also one which is orientation builder, right? There's orientation builder. So I kind of just wrote these codes and kept before now so that I don't have to start spending a lot of time writing codes. So Um, this is the orientation builder. Let me just go. So I'm going to be using a column here for this. Let me paste that. So say colors dot um, blue. Um, and then say colors. Okay. So for this one, we need to get the orientation. We already have one we defined here. So just going to use, so this orientation was builder, right? So we have an expanded, right? Don't need an orientation builder. So let me switch this here. So once I save this, okay, let me just, okay. So you can see this is what we have, right? Of course, this gives us, this has a flex of 2, this has a flex of 3. So of course it will take more what space, right? But with media query, you can see that this is showing that we are in landscape. This particular one, right, is actually what's showing that we are in landscape. This one is showing that we are in what portrait what mode. Okay, so now the question is, what is going on here, right? What's going on here? The orientation builder, what the thing is, when you want, you can determine a widget's current orientation, right? This is actually different from device orientation that you can actually retrieve using media query. This is different, right? But you can retrieve a widget's current orientation using the orientation what builder. So at this point, right, you can see that the orientation of this view, the first view, right, is landscape, and the orientation of the second view is portraits, right? So let's do something. Assuming I give this a flex of 1, of course, I believe you should understand flex by now. You can see now, the reverse is the case. So the one with the, you can see now that one becomes what? Portrait. The other one becomes what? Landscape. These are things that will help you to kind of just, be a bit more responsive when you are actually implementing certain designs. You've designed for example, you've designed a login screen, you've designed a home screen. Now the question is this: when we turn it to landscape, what should it look like? Right? What should it look like? Now, there are widgets that are actually what we call responsive widgets, right? Widgets like your row, your column. They're actually responsive widgets. Okay, they're actually responsive widgets. But of course, in the end, you may want to have a different kind of, you may want to have some adaptive properties, because if in a row, for example, it just goes from start to end, portrait. If you go to landscape, it will still do the same thing because it takes up the, the entire width, right? Okay. So, but you may want to have some adaptive, kind of features with respect to that, saying that, okay, fine, when you are on landscape, this is how I want you to behave, right? When you are on um, portrait, this is how I want you to, actually what behave. Okay. That's actually that. Now there are a few other things, a few other responsive widgets that we can use apart from the, the row column, the expanded, and that there's also what called the aspect ratio. Let's see. Let me just close out this column. So aspect ratio. So this basically what this aspect ratio is going to do is that it's going to maintain a specific aspect ratio for the child widgets, right? So I could see an aspect ratio of, let's say, 16:9, right? And the child widget should, just be a center child text, aspect ratio. Let me just use that. So when I save this, right? So let me give a so that we can see. Can I? Let me switch to wrapping this text in a container. I want to give it a background color so that we can see, you know, so colors.amber. Okay, so okay, this is the text, right? Yeah. Okay, so aspect ratio and that's so let me take out this guy. So assuming I just want to use a container, I can try to just use a container and then let me, so this is the aspect ratio that it what takes, but it maintains the specific ratio for its child, right? So the child of the aspect ratio here is this what center, which I can just remove and we'll have to have the container, right? So this is the aspect ratio. I could do a 3:2, right? So whatever, you're actually going to, whatever is going to be the child of this is going to be within the confines of this aspect ratio, right? From here down to this point. It's not going to exceed that, okay? That also helps for, that's also a responsive widget. Um, So let's see. There's another one. There's another responsive widget called, hold on, fitted box. Yeah, fitted. Let's see, fitted box. Yes. So this fitted box, basically what it does is that it scales the child, like it scales and positions the child within itself according to a particular fit and alignment. For example, the fit here I could say should be a box fit, box fit dot, let's say contain, and then the child. Well, let me just say let me just give a text here, right, and just save that, right. So this is basically what we have now. Let's see. Um, assuming I wrap this in container. So most of all these things, right? Of course, it all depends on usage, right? Just demoing them in itself may not, but that's the filter. So it scales and positions the child within itself according to what the fit. So we have this box fit dot contain, which as large as possible, you can see that it will contain as large as possible while still containing the source entirely within the target box. You can actually see this here. I think there are other stuff here. There's scale down and a lot. So it's something that's all dependent on usage, right? Depends on what you want to, the UI you have to work on and what you want to achieve, right? Okay, so that's actually that. Of course, in the end, it all depends on you having to use them. The idea is to actually now show you what you can actually use to, kind of get stuff. So let's see if well, can let me see. I'm trying to think if we can do a very, you know, interesting demo. But let me see. So let's say let's see if we can build something. Okay, let me create something. So let's assume I want to let's assume I want to kind of develop something, right? I don't know if we have I'll have all the time, but um, so I don't think we'll have all the time. Maybe that will be done in the next class, because I have to actually end this class in a short while, due to another class that needs to actually hold. But two things. It's either I have I do a pre-recorded stuff, or we'll actually just have it done in our next class. Depends on which one you guys agree to, um, you know, but we'll have that conversation on Discord. So you just let me know if you would want us to do it in the next class, or we actually just have a what's it called? We just take out time during one of our classes to, build it from start to bottom. So it's basically just going to be a chat application, right? Just to still show the power of responsive and adaptive design, where we can actually test it out on different screens and get to see how, it's, kind of adapts, right? But that's going to take a longer time. We've spent more already. So that's just the concept of responsive design in Flutter, right? So like I said, a lot of these things is dependent on, what it is you're building. So having good knowledge of what you are designing, and it will help you to know, okay, fine, this is kind of how I would probably want to, this is how I want it to look when it comes to the landscape. This is how I want it to look when the screen is greater than 600 or less than 600. Okay, you know what? Display it in twos, or no, display it in threes, or display it in fours. Okay, so you have widgets, and that can help you actually, achieve that, right? Okay, so that's where we're going to just round that up for today's class. I hope you're almost done with your task, and I expect to see interesting stuff from you all. So yeah, this is where we'll stop. Are there any questions? There actually shouldn't be, because I feel you guys must have used some of these things, right? Yeah, so just to add to that though, there are packages you can actually use, so you can just check that out. There is what's it called? I think uh Flutter screen. I think screen util. Yeah, Flutter screen util. I think it should be something like this. It's either something like this, or it has an underscore. Either of these two. There's Flutter Screen Util. It's actually a package too that helps with, so basically what to do, it actually gives you the, you can choose a design, a size, and the minimum text adaptation and stuff like that. It's just something you can check out. There's also Responsive Builder as a package, Responsive Builder that you can actually use, right? So, to round that up, to round this up, right? It's just some best practices when it comes to responsive design. Uh, Make sure that your design is consistent across different sizes. It shouldn't look different. Now, the thing about, if you look at responsive designs from websites, where when you're now going to mobile responsive, they sometimes, when you have images, text, the smaller it gets, the smaller the images get, and sometimes they take out image and just present text, right? So basically you just have to be consistent with your design across different sizes, right? Another best practice is to use flexible widgets. Flexible widgets. You expand there, especially when you're using rows and columns. Use fluid layouts that are flexible, right? You can use the flexible widget or the expanded widget. Um, Use media queries and layout builders, right? Use it to make your UI adaptive. You can also try to use responsive packages, right? But I would say I would say you just try to use the media query and layout builder. Don't depend much on packages, right? For this, actually, to avoid future issues, right? Because the moment they stop, the packages has to do its dependencies and all those stuff like that. So yeah. And I think there's one other thing you can do, adding defining breakpoints for different screen sizes, which is what we did. They do that in of course in the web. already add breakpoints. Okay, once you get to this screen size, UI should be this way. When it gets to the screen size, you can also implement that in Flutter. We actually checked out something where we actually looked at a particular size where we said the media query, if the width is less than 600, the cross count should be 2. But if it is more than, but if it's more than that, the cross count should be 4. And we're able to, see how that looks. That was actually, that was not just responsive, that was adaptive also. Okay, so okay, guys. So thank you very much. We'll call it timeout here, and I will see you in the next class.